Hello and welcome to Wild on 6TV, the Oxford channel. I'm Sasha Norris and this week's Wild is all about woods, and I love trees. 75% of the world's living creatures depend on them for their homes. If we plant them, we can help to combat climate change, and they are spectacularly useful in their timber for humans, for building, for furniture and for loads of other things. I went down to Christmas Common to talk to Andrew Ingram, who has lived and worked all his life on his 350-acre woodland. And he had a lot to say about the cathedrals of beech, which inhabit much of the Chilterns. Well, today I've come out to Christmas Common to meet Andrew Ingram, who manages 350 acres of woodland here. And we're standing now in a beech woodland, aren't we? And when you bought the woodlands, was it 40 years ago now?
This particular bit was 30 years ago.
30 years ago. Most of your 350 acres looked like this, didn't it?
Absolutely. And if you look just through here anyway, you can see this is a typical Chiltern beech wood with a total canopy where the leaf in the summer, there will be no light coming down here at all. And the only place that you might get that where a tree has fallen. But as you can see, when you look at it, it's an incredibly sort of sterile, even hostile environment. There is nothing really. There are no doubt one or two fungus that live on the trees, but there's nothing growing on the ground, not even a bluebell here. And so from an environmental point of view, it's an unusual, rather rare environment, but one that doesn't sustain a lot of flora and fauna.
No, it's funny because a lot of people would look at that and say, that's beautiful, you've got old trees, you've got, you know, the beech. I mean, the leaves look beautiful, don't they? The copper-coloured leaves. But you know better. You know that this is not brilliant for wildlife.
I know that. And at the same time, what you don't want is 350 acres like this, because it's just too much of one thing. And so what we've adopted here is a policy of breaking this up. The poorer stands of timber we have cleared and replanted, and other areas where there were good stock of beech, we have cleared the poorer stands, the second grade trees, the firewood trees, allowed the good trees to remain, which will become our parent crops. And by having opened it up and getting light in here, natural light, that has allowed another story of trees, a lot of vegetation to come in, and we've created a much better and more sympathetic environment.
Now, right behind us here, we've got just an example of what you're talking about. So there was, to prove your point, a tree's come down, isn't it? A tree's fallen down.
Yep.
And you've just got a little bit of vegetation starting to grow up on the forest floor there.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see whether it is the case, but there is a stump of a tree there, which obviously at some moment has been felled or has fallen down, and it has allowed just a little bit of light in here. And what we have is some vegetation. And indeed, we've actually got some natural regeneration there, which has been allowed to come on because we've got a little bit of light. And if you look up, you can see that there's a break in the canopy, and even in the summer, when all these leaves, all the trees are fully in leaf, there's still going to be some light getting through here.
A little bit of light.
Yes.
And that gives this bit of vegetation which allows all sorts of wildlife, insects, birds,
yes.
mammals to actually start to come in. I mean,
Indeed.
bracken's not the, we've got bracken here, it's not the best plant, but where you've got a bit more light, you get all sorts of other undergrowth.
Yes, you get some bramble and other plants coming in, grassland, and then eventually the flowers of various sorts. But I just feel it cannot be wrong to break up an environment like this, so you've got a more varied environment in terms of age. So all these trees are not the same age. You have different species, not exclusive. I mean, if we look round here, it is 95% beech. There may be the odd oak or even the odd cherry in here, but we're trying to introduce more species and a much greater variety of age of the trees that are growing here, from little trees growing that age right to the fully mature trees.
Well, we're going to go now and have a look at where you've done that, or you've tried to diversify the woodland. So
yep.
Should we head off? Which direction are we?
That way.
That way. Off we go then.
Right.
Go on, Jess. So we've just seen where you've got that dense canopy, that kind of traditional beechwood, which we all think of as, you know, Oxfordshire's and the Chilterns kind of traditional cover, forest cover, and yet you're saying that actually that was man-made and it's not that brilliant for wildlife.
Indeed it isn't. And if you look here, we've taken a lot of the poorer timber out. We've left some of the better stems to be parent trees. And if you look round, you will see the canopy is open. There's a lot more light getting through. We've got a completely different sort of flora on the ground here, bracken, bramble, all sorts of things growing here. We've got some natural regeneration. And I just think from an environmental point of view, this would support a great deal more than the typical sterile Chiltern beechwood, which is absolutely sterile underneath and supports nothing.
Because you've just got that sort of muddy, sort of browny mulch from the leaves, haven't you? And
that's all, yeah.
And at this time of year, obviously the canopy's open anyway because there's no leaves on the trees. Yeah. But in the summer, well, we'll come back in summer hopefully and have a look. But we'd see much more light streaming through here.
Absolutely, and you would get the dappled effect. A lot of people talk about the dappled effect, where you get a mixture of light and darkness, and that obviously happens as the sun rotates, and even with the leaf on. And it seems to support a lot more things. This is where you get natural regeneration and things, where you've got this dappled effect.
Right.
So here we've achieved it by felling some of the timber, opening it up, and encouraging natural regeneration.
And that, of course, is what you would get in a natural forest, in a natural woodland, because
yes, it is, yeah.
You'd have trees dying, you know, at different times, and new trees growing. Yeah. Whereas what tends to happen when man creates a forest is we fill everything and we plant the trees all at the same time, and they all grow up at the same time, and that's the unnaturalness of it.
That's precisely it. Is even-aged crops of any sort, I think, but particularly with timber, because their lifespan is so long. I mean, an oak tree will survive thousands of years almost, but if you plant them all at the same time, they're all of an even age, and so the environment that you've created is of one sort of structure and one stature. Here we've broken that up. We've got very young trees behind us here, natural regeneration, only 2 or 3 years old, big mature trees, plenty of light coming in. We've got different ages, and this is where you, from an environmental point of view, not necessarily a timber point of view, but an environmental point of view, you're creating a much better habitat.
Should we just have a look? There's just a little young group of beech trees, ash trees. Is it?
Ash with a beech with them, look at it.
This is a kind of tree that you like, Andrew, as a forester.
Yeah, this is going to produce good timber. It's basically straight. It hasn't forked and gone up as a double or a treble. There's going to be 40, 50, 60 feet of good timber out of this. Well established, natural regeneration, going well.
You like that?
Absolutely.
It's a good tree. Has it got a name?
No, not yet.
How many trees have you got, Andrew?
I've no idea. 350 acres times 50,000, I suppose.
50,000 trees.
Growing in the wood of various ages, you know, from this size up to that size. Yeah.
There's a lot of trees, you can't give names to them all, can you? No. Right, we were bounding off down here.
No, I was just looking at another ash tree which I happen to know. On the right there, do you see the tree with arrows on it?
Oh yeah.
And then just this side of it, there's an ash tree.
Scott, over here. Look, this is that tree. 20 years on, is that right?
Yep. The tree we just had a look at, which was nice clean ash tree, this is what I would like to think that tree will become 20, 25 years up the line. Here we got good clean timber going up, no laterals, they've all fallen off, all the side branches have come off. I've got nice clean bit of timber going up 40, 50 feet there.
So you haven't taken off the side branches?
No, that's just natural senescence. The tree has just aged and those branches have come off of their own.
Why does it grow so tall and so straight?
Because it's seeking the light.
Right.
And this is, if I'm wearing a forestry hat, which is why I'm trying to produce good timber, which I can sell and is valuable, and when you put it on a saw bench, you've got lots of clean timber to work with. You know, if I'm trying to produce that, I want a tree which is going to be pulled up to the light so it grows straight. It's looking for light all the time, rather than the parkland tree. If you go into the parks in Oxford or wherever it happens to be, and you see these beautiful oak trees, but they've got no real millable timber in them at all, because
They're
they've all
big
got
and wide.
they're big and round and wide.
Because they've got no trees growing around them. They don't
Exactly.
need to grow up to get to the light to compete with the others.
So we have got an environment here, but I've also managed to combine it with growing some timber. That's the ultimate, is actually to succeed in growing good quality timber, but at the same time creating a very friendly environment.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of other flora and fauna.
That's the ideal scenario, and you've achieved it.
Well, not everywhere, but just occasionally we get lucky and we manage to do it. But that would be my objective.
You're doing
It's a lot of people forget that trees and woods are actually a crop. And I think this is one of the problems of the whole industry, is that people regard, and they literally, you're talking about friends and names of trees a moment ago, people become hugely emotionally attached to a wood.
Right.
And they walk through it every day, and they take the dogs for a walk. This is a public bridleway here, and people walk down it every day of the year. And they become old friends. But the problem with a tree is that they have an inherent value. They are a crop. They were planted by the timber merchants of Wickham to sustain that timber market and to grow timber for chairs, school chairs, tables, whatever it happens to be. And you know, we've in order to supply that, I've got to cut this tree out. I've got to take a chainsaw out one day and knock it down. But if we need to explain to people that we're not just doing that every time we cut a tree down, we're either planting another 20 or we're encouraging natural regeneration like we have here to take over from this tree. This has a life. It will die. It's born, it grows, and it dies, like human beings. The Chiltern Beechwoods are, in human terms, old age pensioners.
It's life, really, isn't it? Life.
Yeah, no different, no different. Yeah.
Okay. Should we wander down there?
Do you want to go down there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking we got a lot of naturally regenerated ash down there. Which has come up like that.
Okay, so we've come in and you were just saying about how the trees are going to get a bit taller, and here they are a bit taller, but you sort of walked in and immediately said, classic, there's, classic example of squirrel damage, didn't you?
Exactly. And you can see it here, further up the tree, where the tree has been completely ring-barked by the grey squirrels. In the summer, as I say, in the months of May and June, nobody's entirely clear why they do it. It's thought to be something perhaps to do with the breeding cycle or shortage of vitamins, but they come in and they can scrape the bark there. Now on a big tree, a large tree like that one back there, you'll see squirrel damage, but it will never kill it. You know, it will survive. But as you can see here, a tree like that, where further up it's been completely ring barked, the top of that tree's dead.
Now this is essential because for the tree, the live bit is the bark, isn't it? That's the bit that's transporting
Exactly.
all the nutrients around the tree to the branches to keep it growing, to keep the leaves alive.
That's right.
And the middle section is actually dead, isn't it?
Effectively, yes. Each year you get an extra ring on a tree, and that is basically the transport system, and all the nutrients go up and down, as you say. And so if you damage that, you can damage, I think a tree can, depending on the species and things, you could lose some 70 or 80% of the ring. But
Right.
once you ring it 100%, it's the lifeblood has been completely cut
It's
out.
like severing an artery or something.
Precisely, absolutely
Yeah.
precisely the same.
So everything above that will die?
Yeah.
Because it can't bring the water and the nutrients out from the soil?
And from my point of view, I mean, you know, what we're trying to achieve is to grow timber, you know, which needs to be good and straight, which you can cut on a sawmill. What you don't want to do is produce very short, scrubby trees with lots of lateral branches, because it may look very attractive, but in the terms of pure timber production, it's highly inefficient. So what we're looking to do is produce nice, clean stems, you know, with you know, good, nice timber. Here, this tree will never now. I mean, this tree is probably 15 years old, 20 years old, perhaps.
Right.
And it's just been cut off in its prime, and it will be nothing but firewood. It will never ever achieve anything like millable or quality timber.
According to the Forestry Commission, squirrels cause £5 million worth of damage to our national woods every year. But where woods are managed purely for conservation and our enjoyment, they're not so damaging. So we've arrived, you've sort of leaning out of the window, and there it was. You've got these long lines of trees. What's going on here?
Yeah, and this is commercial forestry, a mixture of larch and oak. When it was planted, probably 24, 25 years ago, there were 3 rows of larch and 1 row of oak. And if you look now, we're down to 1 row of larch and 1 row of oak. We've taken out the 3 rows, 2 rows either side.
Oh, you
here.
actually had 2 rows in between here and
Exactly.
here.
If we look carefully,
Because
you'll be able
you've
to
got
see.
alternating lines. This is larch.
Yes.
It goes all the way down, and this is oak, and then you've got larch, oak, all the way down. Okay.
There was a row of larch here and another row of larch there.
In between.
Those have now been taken out. They've
For
gone
timber?
out for timber.
Yeah.
Yes, for pulpwood, fencing stakes, that sort of material. So we're now down to a 50-50 mix of oak and softwoods. In about another 30 years, the larch will go. And they will by then be mature, and they will go on, they will be another 70 feet taller than they are now, and will produce some good timber. That will then leave the oak, which will be the remaining crop, to go on, and they will go on for another 60 years beyond that. They will grow on, this is, say, call it 25 years old now. They'll go up to 125, 150 years. So there'll be another
Was this
100...
planted before you came?
No, I planted this.
Okay, this was planted. And
In the middle 70s, 1975, 76 sometime.
because it's sort of gone out of vogue, hasn't it, planting trees in rows? I mean,
I agree. I mean, this is, a lot of people would find this unattractive. When we plant now, we plant in groups. We
Right.
we plant in rows, but there are groups of trees in the rows.
Yeah.
And so you would not get solid lines of this. It is not attractive, and indeed there will come a time when there will be rows of oak, and you will see that for another 100 years. Hopefully there will be bits and pieces grow up where the larch is, and it will sort of, the eye won't actually see these lines quite as clearly. And I think what will happen here is, particularly when the larch comes out, you will get other species coming in. So it won't just be a total monoculture of oak. But you know, if you're growing timber, this is the way to do it. You know, I mean, this is commercial timber growing, and about every 5th, 6th, 7th tree here will make a final crop oak tree, which hopefully will be to a very high standard.
So not all of these trees will actually turn into the
No.
final crop?
No,
Why is
because
that?
because if you look, this tree for here
Right,
is about
okay.
5 feet apart. You can't grow 2 good trees that close.
Right.
They're going to be 25 feet apart. And we will thin it, and the rest will come out as quite literally firewood, that sort of
Right.
material. We'll select it to leave the best trees all the time. And if I've got enough money, I would side prune these trees here so that I get a nice clean bowl of timber going up, which is going to be grade 1 oak. in 120 years, certainly year 2150 or something. Yeah.
2,150?
Yeah, we're looking 150 years up the line here, 100 years, 125.
And you've got 2 girls.
Yeah, they'll be dead and gone by then, unless we found some way of keeping them alive. Yeah, I mean, you plant trees. If you're a forester, you don't plant for yourself, for your children, or your grandchildren. You're looking forward to great-grandchildren. I mean, you're always thinking 100, 150 years in advance, particularly hardwoods.
How can it work for you to not get a crop for 150 years? I mean, how can it work economically?
Because there was a crop here when I started.
Okay.
So we have a wood actually here, and this was planted by somebody 120 years ago. We got some wildlife apart from oak in the wood. And this was planted, whenever it was in the sort of middle 1800s, and so we had a wood. We bought a wood and inherited a wood, and we are now able to take the mature trees out and replace with new trees.
So somebody a long time ago kind of was thinking of you.
If you like, yeah. No, people, that's what forestry is about. You've just got to think. It'd be incredibly fortunate if it was my family still owned this piece of land in 125 years' time. I think it's highly unlikely. But, I took something over. I want to leave something at least as good, arguably better, than when I took it over.
Because you're carefully managing a forest which you'll never reap the benefits of. And
I personally will not. Never.
That's
never,
an
ever.
extraordinary thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very few things in modern life are that far-sighted, are they?
I can't think of anything, really.
Yeah.
No,
but it's difficult to make it pay, isn't it?
Very difficult. I mean, frankly, at best now managing timber is a sort of break-even operation, and at worst you're putting your hand in your pocket virtually the whole time to sustain it and do it. Because the value of timber, we're now selling beech for about half the value that it was, or half the amount of money that we were getting 5 years ago. And it's just not sustainable.
And that's because you've got cheap timber coming in from Eastern Europe.
That's right. And timber delivered into the UK, seasoned, sawn, ready to go into the furniture factory and be made into a chair or into a sofa or whatever it may be, cheaper than than it's possible for me to grow a tree and cut it down. They've got a wonderful resource of timber, shipping it into Italy, massive mill being established there, converting it, kilning it, drying it, seasoning it, doing the whole business, and they can deliver it into this country now for £3 a hopper's foot. Now, a hopper's foot, which you probably won't know, is roughly a cubic foot. It's slightly bigger to allow for offcuts. So for £3 you can buy a cubic foot of timber, which is all sawn to whatever dimension you want, for £3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it would cost me that almost to fell a decent beech tree and just get it to the side of the road.
Right.
And it hasn't been sawn, it hasn't been seasoned, it hasn't been put into a pack and ready to go into the furniture.
Is there anyone that will pay you? Can you get Forestry Commission money or government money to support these woods as a wildlife habitat?
We do get money from the Forestry Commission. We get a sort of management grant, an annual management grant, which amounts to some £3,000. That is paid to me to maintain my rides, to kill grey squirrels, and you've heard why we need to do that because of the damage they're doing to these trees. It doesn't cover the cost of doing the job. That's what we get. We get establishment grants for just putting these trees in the ground. Now here we got a successful plantation. A successful commercial plantation is growing away. But there's no ongoing money on the maintenance of this wood. These trees here, they went into the forestry chain, but it cost me more money to get a man to cut them down than I got for the timber that went into the pulp mill.
Can you ever see yourself selling your woods because you can't afford to keep them?
I hope not. As long as I got some income coming in from somewhere else and I can afford to keep them, I will do. But if push came to shove, I would have no choice. Yeah.
Because £3,000 for managing them is compared to what they're worth, if you sold them, is nothing, is it?
It's absolutely nothing.
It's nothing. It's 0.1% or something.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you do keep them, Andrew.
Well, I sincerely hope that I do, and I would be delighted if either one of my daughters actually took over.
Are you going to become a forester, Jess?
I don't know.
You might do. You look like the part in your wellies there. You've been very patient with us. Do you like the trees?
Yeah.
Yeah, you enjoy it?
Yes.
Oh wow, got a lot of space to run around in anyway, haven't you?
Yeah.
Come on, let's go run around. Andrew, it appears, is right. 85% of the timber we use in Britain is imported at a cost of around £8 billion a year. Before humans came, Britain was forested coast to coast. Perhaps you want to get involved in expanding Britain's woodlands. The Forestry Commission want you to do so, and they give out grants for planting woodland. Contact them on 0131 334 0303. And if you just want to go walking in our woods, many of the woods local to us in Oxfordshire are open to public access. For more information on woodland walking, call the Woodland Trust on 01476 58 1135. Be sure to buy wood, especially British wood, as it keeps people interested in managing for the future of our forests. But if you buy tropical hardwoods, especially for garden furniture or rustic type furniture, then beware. It might be from a forest which is chopped down and not replanted. Always ask the supplier, and if they can't give you information, then don't buy it. Well, that's it from Wild this week. Until next time, get your wellies on and get out there.